All right, this is Clint from the Doorway to hanging out with Cattlehammer. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and a little bit about the band?
Hey, Clint, thank you for having me. Well, my name's Duncan. I am, I suppose, the main songwriter, frontman, guitar, vocals for Cattlehammer. So I am the responsible party, legally and in whatever way you want to describe me. So yeah, we just put our first album out. Thank you, Clint, for your review as well. That was cool. And it seems to be going down pretty well so far.
Nice. That's cool. That's a good intro. Awesome.
Thank you.
So I kind of want to talk about, you kind of put like a 2-song demo out like before this. And I would say, yes, this is the proper record, but I read a lot of stuff saying like people figured like call that kind of your first release. So the Methlum record. Yeah. So I kind of want to just know, like, from Methlum to Dark Thoughts, how do you feel the band has changed, differ? Like what vibes do you feel? So
it's probably helpful if I think back to how it started. It was, well, pretty much everything up to and including up to Dark Thoughts was just myself, self-recorded. I just programmed the drums, written, record everything at home in my studio here. Put a first, I think 4 or 5 tracks online in demo form. At that point, we'd got a band together and started to learn and rehearse the songs so that we could eventually take it live. And it would have been about this time last year. We just started going live, playing live shows, and I just needed something to occupy my time, So for whatever reason, I thought, well, let's try and attempt, I don't know, just like a long form track, like like Sleep's Jerusalem, hence Bethlehem, and that was just something I did, I suppose, to kind of test or challenge myself. Worked out okay. The mix, it's literally a demo that's out there, so I don't really class that as an official release in any form. But it was initially just put out there, I think, for a week, maybe even a weekend, just as a initial. It's going to be forever till we can actually even attempt to learn this as a band, never mind record it as an official piece of music. So. Yeah, just as a limited release, I'd put it out for like a few days, get it while you can, just put it back in its box. And I think it was just before Christmas. I put it back out again and just neglected to take it down this time. So I think since all of the press and what have you has come out for this record, they've just seen this like, hour plus track and just assumed that, something that long, there must have been, I suppose, some kind of a level of input that suggested it was a legitimate release and not just something that was how I always used to do it. I'd just record it for the sake of creating something, put it out, and then move on to the next thing. And that was essentially what this was, a little stopgap. But I've always wanted to kind of have a very deep discography. Okay. So hey ho, that's one line on the on the credits,
That's cool. No, awesome. So listening to the brand new Cattlehammer record, it kind of reminds, like, there's 4 bands in particular. I feel like you kind of melded all together, and they're bands I love, I grew up with. I'm 53, so I'm an old man. So so
I'm not too far behind you, dude. Don't worry.
Yeah, I got you. So like Buzz Oven, Grief, Cavity, and Noothgrush. I feel like you kind of threw all these bands together in a blender and made Cattlehammer. It kind of reminds me of that. What inspired you to bring Cattlehammer to this style? Yeah.
There are a couple of instances. I've been into this kind of music for years. I was in a band called Mistress 25 years ago, and that started off as like a super heavy sludge band. Forgive me, I'm getting a notification. I've got an interview with you. Bear me a second. Yes, thank you, phone. I know. Sorry, I've just been interrupted to be reminded to do what I'm already doing. Bear me a moment. Let me get my train of thought back on.
Yeah, no problem.
But yeah, in terms of influences, always been into the slow music, but just through just through how I suppose the cards of the universe has fallen. I've just kind of for the last 10, 15 years just done things like I played with Alan Athrak live on bass for like 10 years. So obviously tempo wise, massive difference. Always been into kind of like, black metal, crust punk, hardcore. So it's always been very much a very fast tempo bass that I'm coming from. But there was a couple of occasions I saw Moloch, who I think they just put their record out last week as well. They're an amazing band. I saw those at a rehearsal, just like a small low-key rehearsal studio show in Birmingham about 3 years back now. I saw Bellwitch live at Roadburn, and they use a lot of the I think the church organs, which that triggered something in the back of my mind. Carnate put their latest record out unannounced, so again that'll hit me quite all those three within the space of maybe within a month. So after a couple of weeks of procrastination, I just got to it and just worked out essentially what would become Watchmen Alone. It was, I think, once I'd figured out note one, it was less the second note what chord it was more the space between it, how long, because my natural instinct is to note one, note two, straight out. Whereas obviously this one I need a little bit more restraint, let the let the vibe kind of flow, and it doesn't sound like it, I guess, to listen to, but the a lot of restraint was involved in the creation, just trying to put the brakes on a little bit throughout. But yeah, in terms of those bands that you mentioned, Buzz of and Grief, New Crush and Cavity, they're all very, very similar in terms of, I don't see them much as, whereas I think some sludge bands can be more slowed down, bluesy kind of things, whereas I think they come more from I suppose, again, hardcore or punk adjacent, and I think that through just mere shared influences, coincidence, whatever you call it, I think we've kind of ended up in a similar output with, I suppose, the collective input that I've kind of listened to over the past 20, 25 years or so.
Yeah, I mean, well, look at all the four bands I mentioned. They all were in crust punk and hardcore bands before these stuff. So,
well, I mean, look at Napalm and Cathedral if you want to go straight back to the beginning.
Cool, awesome. No, great. So I kind of wanted to ask, why do you think like sludge, crust, drone, like punk elements work so well in doom, but yet sometimes they don't work in other music, but they always seem to work here?
You're right. I think it's just a shared. I mean, it's quite easy for me just to look out the window. I'm in the same environment that spawned both Black Sabbath and Napalm Death, so I guess it's coming from a similar place of, I suppose, struggle in a sense that very bringing class or things into it, but very, very kind of like working class kind of. A sense of being against something, against the wider world as a whole, against the system that's in place to make things difficult for people. Just as a sense of fighting back in the same way, I suppose. Discharge fought back. You've got someone like I guess Iron Monkey that was born out of I think that was just frustration and. Like I say, I think it's less of a music influence, more of a surroundings kind of thing. Answer to your original question, Clint. Yeah.
Oh no, awesome. Yeah, I see the Rorschach patch on your shirt. And I'm from New Jersey, so like I grew up seeing that band and then them turning into the other bands that they became, and that's the kind of vibe I get. Like Rorschach was like the most crusty, doomy band that I ever saw live in my life. And like they would play VFW halls here, and like there'd be like 300 kids there killing themselves. And then the next game would go on and the room would empty. Like they were just that kind of band. So like I feel the same kind of vibe mixed with them. They were like brothers of that genre. Cool.
That's awesome. I think just our age difference for me, it's Kiss You Goodbye that got me into Rorschach rather than maybe the other way around. But I'm chuffed that you picked up on that. But yeah, no, that's exactly you've
nice.
You've captured it to a T in terms of where it came from. Yeah.
Cool. So I want to talk about your vocals for a second because they are the most brutal, just tormented, disturbing goddamn things I've heard in a long time. And this is where the vibe of like Cavity come to me. Like the first early Cavity records, you sound like that's the vibe I'm getting, or like Youth Crush. Like, was it really hard to be able to incorporate that vocal style into this musical tone? Because it's very different. Like, you're coming from a very kind of hardcore, crusty vocal vibe. So
it's all I've got to work with, I guess I think I did an interview with some website, I think last week, and I think it's just the collection of 25 years worth of influence. Like my very, very first band, and that was the very first time I'd ever kind of attempted to lead a band and write songs myself, and that was much more your kind of Rorschach-y, kind of like botch, kind of chaotic kind of hardcore at that time. So started my vocals from there, and if I listen back, then that's 25 years ago. It's you can tell the youth in the same way that you can, I don't know, something like even Cap and Jazz, which is a complete left field reference, but again, you can hear the youth in their vocals. But 25 years we've either done backing or just fronted bands, and it's just, I think, an amalgamation of me just trying, and some might say succeed or fail, but just kind of take on enough of my influences, like Johnny Morrow, Iron Monkey, Weird Thumb, Integrity, like I say, Tim Singer at Kissing Goodbye or Rorschach, the three guys out of Neurosis. All of those just kind of. And with music, it is there's a sense that, well, I just need to get something ugly from outside of me to correspond to the musical backing, so there was a review on a podcast that I picked up on yesterday, and he says, I think any vocalist in the world would listen to him and say, well, that is not what you want to do, and there's no vocal training, and God knows what the inside of my throat looks like.
Fair enough.
But it absolutely seems to work, and I think I've got it to a level now where I don't really have to kind of necessarily hurt myself when I perform it live. I've got in-ear monitors now, which that has made a world of difference to the performance aspect of it, because the main struggle was, if you can't hear yourself while you're performing this kind of vocal style, you're going to be blown out in in seconds. Just you're fighting against the PA to kind of hear yourself. So I don't want to say sounding better than ever, because I don't think anybody would describe what I've concocted as better than a lot of things. But certainly in context of gnarly, horrible music, I think I've got to a good level at the moment.
Good, awesome. So I want to talk about the guitars and bass as well too, and I'm going to kind of go to a different perspective. I started as a bass player when I was like 13, cool. So I think that's why I love this kind of music so much, because that's kind of the way it's driven. But I feel like the bass almost sometimes in a lot of the songs plays more of a lead than the guitar. Like the guitar to me feels like it's this wall of noise and texture that makes the song, but the bass is kind of leading. When you were writing these songs, was it more bass guitar driven when you were doing it, or was it just happen that way?
I think it probably just comes with the territory tuning down to A, or whatever it is that we use. And there's I don't know what the actual name of it is. A chord that I use quite a lot, which is almost, I suppose, like a double power chord, which I guess gives an extra element of bass into the sound anyway. With the band, as much as I think it needs it at times, I didn't necessarily want the bass to just follow the guitars all the way through. I wanted to try and, just at least put a bit of texture or just additional aspects to the sound, just for the sake of, with such a lot of repetition, there's a danger of it being boring quite quickly, I guess. But then from a recording side of things, Ike, who's our drummer, and I say drummer because that's the most, calling him a drummer is minimizing everything else that he does for the band, because he recorded and produced the record, implemented a lot of the kind of electronic stuff that we use to take into a live setting. But again, with the recorded album, there are sub bass elements in there as well, just on certain kind of breakdowns or drops, just to give it bit of extra weight and a bit of extra punch. Again, there were kind of electronic synthesized parts as well. Some of that on a church organ or a bass organ type thing, just to give it that extra weight. And as I said, I don't think the songs are particularly complex in terms of multiple parts, but I think with music this, I suppose, drawn out, it's a good thing to have that kind of just minimal kind of textures just to differentiate parts, and absolutely for people performing the thing, it helps orientate yourself, I suppose, as to where the fuck you are in the space of the song at any given time as well.
Cool. And it's funny you speak about the drummer, because the drums are what we're always going to talk about next. It is really hard in this kind of music to hit that pocket. And I think he hits the pocket all the time. He knows when to overplay. He knows when to underplay. And it has this nasty backbeat. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but like I keep waiting for the drum to get hit, and he teases me. And then like 30 seconds later, I hear it, and I'm like, God damn, like that sounds so much better than where I thought the drum was going to be. So was it, when you were recording this record, did you purposely have him kind of like feel the song rather than just play the song?
Well, again, obviously all of the original songs were demoed by myself. Not having, that's one of the few instruments I've never put my hand to, is a drum kit. So again, I've put some rudimentary beats into just to make the song, but ultimately when we were rehearsing them to take them live, it was a case of, you know, I mean, don't start putting blast beats or jazz fills here, you know, but dude, please, set yourself loose on it. And yeah, I think that with this music, it's, the drums are as important with their, I suppose, the lack of drums as opposed to the drums. Like you say, the pauses in between the beats, just the those extra little bits of, as you kind of captured it perfectly, just waiting for the hammer to drop, but it just doesn't quite come until, like I say, when you don't quite expect it as much. That sense of, you know, the anticipation. That's something that I think I've tried to use from, you know, like Burning Witch, Carnate. They do it so well. Just those kind of hangs with the little feet, and then bang. It's that tension, anticipation, sense of uncomfortable anxiety, waiting for it to drop, you know. But also things like some of the slow parts in like Power Violence bands, they've got a very similar kind of but then again, it's probably even more, it's less celebrated, I suppose, because it's so, I suppose, grind adjacent, that genre. But you know, their slow parts was heavy as anything. I think that, you know,
I was gonna say, like, it's very Man is the Bastard the way he plays his drums. So that's very cool. You said Power Violence.
Awesome. Well, based on what you're saying, I think half of my my plans have worked. Then, thank you.
There you go. Cool. Awesome. So I want to talk about one of my favorite songs off the record, and I am going to come from it from a very different way because I love this song. It's called it's Body Puzzle. That's my favorite song on the record, and the reason why I love that is, now you may not have done it on purpose, but like, I hear so much Thurgathon in that song. And it might just be the organs or the way things are arranged or whatever, but it reminds me of, like, that was the first Doom band I fell in love with, all right, like back in the day. And it's like, if you mix Buzz Oven and Thurgathon, like, that song gives me that vibe. Could you talk about that song? Because, like, if I was to play someone a track, I would play them that song instantly. Cool.
Thank you, dude. I think that was probably the third track that I wrote in the life of the band. Thurgathon, I must admit, unless they're spelt in a way that's completely taken me by left field, I'm not familiar with them. So I feel like I need to get my notebook or just to make a note, because that's
they're a Finnish death doom band from like the early 90s. So
cool, because I like a lot of that kind of things. You know, oh god, was it Demolic as well? That kind of
very similar. Very similar. Yeah.
I know what you mean. Cool. Well, it was I suppose what I wanted for that song was just something with, again, just I suppose a long drawn out kind of, I suppose people call it drone, but you know, a long drawn out, I suppose, let the chord ring out, and then just a, you know, a 3 or 4 note tail at the end of the riff. And I think I try to, with all the songs, just build to something, you know, just even if it's just going, you know, from chords to single notes, just to, like I said before, keep it interesting. Build it all up, and then kind of, as you've probably heard, halfway through it kind of just drops off for maybe 30 seconds. The demo, there was a bit more, it sounded a little bit more sparse than on the record, with just almost like a piano, just clean guitar. But either way, it just builds up to, again, I suppose, the crescendo of the second half, which is one of just, it again, just not particularly complicated riff as such to play, but it in terms of, I suppose, weight and emotion, it does what it needs to do. And I think that was the deciding factor, I suppose, in getting that one in particular to close the album, just because of the way it just kind of, it doesn't so much descends as just falls into, just
falls. It ravels apart. It's great. I love it. Yeah. Oh, cool. So you work with Road to Masochist now. I've been talking to them a bunch. The two of them are super cool. Like, I just got to say, how did you come to work with them? Because they're kind of new, really small, out of the corner. Like, they've done some really impressive records that have blown me away. I actually interviewed another band that was on the label too. But like I said, how did you start working with them?
It was easier than I could have ever dreamt, to be honest. I think we literally just finished our second gig. Which was in Bristol, which I know that the RTM guys aren't from Bristol, but that's easy enough for them to get to, I think, here in the UK. But they couldn't make it, and I assume they'd obviously just caught some videos online, and they dropped us a message pretty much the afternoon after that show, asking if, well, I suppose more just offering their service if they ever wanted to put anything out. So obviously, you know, 2 gigs in, of course, absolutely. So given that we'd had, you know, a set's worth of material, we've actually got probably 2 or 3 albums worth in our back pocket, good to go. So it was a case, and I suppose the next month was to, or the next couple of months, just to establish, I suppose, which of the songs we'd put on this record, which are the ones are gonna we'll sit on for another, you know, year or so, and put them on the next one. But I can't believe how easy it was. They approached us, and I think that if you're a band from the UK, and I wouldn't even say necessarily from the UK, but certainly, you know, if you're a local band from here and you're doing the right things, you're playing a certain type of music with the right, you know, sense of ethos and integrity behind it, they'll pick up on that, and they'll work with you, because it's so, you know, difficult to be able to put records out yourself nowadays. It's invaluable that people like Road to Masochist are active, you know, to give that stage for us to, you know, come and vomit all over. You know?
No, very cool, awesome. So I kind of want to ask, like, how is it different live from the record? Like, if I went to see you, how would it be different from me listening to an album?
I think you'd probably pick up a lot more on the, I suppose, the less doom metal kind of influences, just in terms of how I particularly perform. In a sense, it's less a performance, I suppose. I just kind of just lock myself in and just put. Just I suppose before the show starts, I need to just figure out a way to you know, to wrench every ounce of energy and emotion from my body, instrument, whatever, you know. So there's an intensity of performance that I think you can't get on the record. If the venues are able to implement it, we've got like a 40-minute backing video just of various, you know, uncomfortable and nasty kind of videos off from the World Wide Web and beyond, just all mixed up, just to give again another uncomfortable backing. I think if I could capture anything, it's one of those mid-90s Neurosis shows with the visuals, with the you
I
know,
was
that
just
is
going to say how neurosis of you to do that kind of stuff. It was that's every time I've seen neurosis, they've done the same thing, and it's amazing. So
yeah, it's just those, you know, that sweet spot, just on or around through silver and blood. For me, I think there's nothing better. You just watch any video, just, and like I say, the intensity of the performance, it counts for probably 75% of the impacts. I think, never mind just the detuned guitars at volume. It's, like I say, just the intensity with which it's played. I think that separates it a lot from the records, which are phenomenal in their own right, you know.
very cool. So you self-proclaim the band as Black and Doom Negativity. I kind of want to talk about this for a moment. I don't hear black metal in your music at all. Now, maybe I'm the only one on earth that doesn't, but I hear the crust, the punk, the hardcore, the doom. Where do you feel the black metal is in Calendar?
I think because I've been part of the likes
Other
of
bands?
Masochist and stuff, there's a sense of it being kind of inherent in terms of how I
Okay.
play the guitar. You know, the writing, there are a few tremolo riffs, and a lot of the newest, the new material that's yet to be recorded has got a similar kind of vibe as well. Absolutely, I don't see it so much in a sense of black metal influence, in as much as a black metal mood.
Okay.
Mood as opposed to a musical influence, I suppose. Just that sense of, you know, kind of overall overwhelming darkness. So yeah, black mood as opposed to black metal is probably
Fair
close
enough.
to the truth, I suppose.
Fair, absolutely fair enough. No, I get it. So I always like to ask this question to the artist. Let's say somebody is about to see you for the very first time and they don't even know who you are. Like, you're just getting up on stage and they're going to experience it the first time. How would you explain your sound to someone that's never seen you before?
Apologies in advance for ruining your evening. Yeah, this is heavy music. I suppose this is heavy music in every sense, in the sense that it's heavy in terms of volume, content, intensity, subject matter. Try not to judge it on how. Try not to be led by your ears so much as led by your whole body. You know, experience it. Don't listen to it.
Awesome. Is there anything off the new record that you'd like to change in any way, shape, or form?
Only in terms of how I'd approach doing little things like my vocals, more in terms of how I, as I suppose the de facto band leader, kind of organise things, and you know, because it was very much kind of like flying by the seat of my pants, putting the record together, without a specific kind of plan as such, just muddle through it. I mean, it's come out amazing. I couldn't have asked for it better. A couple of things, like I say, I changed maybe just in terms of how I approach my vocals. A lot of certainly for writing, maybe for another of the other tracks, I, rather than just doing them in blocks of maybe the verse, the chorus, I try to just record the whole song all the way through 2 or 3 times, which I kind of, I suppose, wanted to capture, I guess, what is it, I suppose, the gradual fatigue and exhaustion that you'll get from doing it live anyway. But then, does that necessarily translate into an optimum recorded product? Do you want to sound kind of ragged and out of breath on the record? So again, that's something I'll explore. It's absolutely not like a massive game-changing thing that I change significantly, but I'd maybe spend a bit more time in terms of how I approach the vocal side of things. But based on the way that everybody's commented, them, you included, it seems like I'm doing something right in that way. I mean, if you listen carefully to I think the very end of writing, I think the very last noise that comes out of my mouth is a sick in the mouth. So you can it says it all. But you know, there you go. That's capturing the reality of the performance, I guess, if you want to get all artistic on it.
No, that's great. So, is there anything that's out of the question that you would add to Cattle Hammer? Like, is there, and I'm not talking about like rap or anything like that, but like within the confounds of what you're doing, is there anything you say like, oh, I'm never going to do that with this band?
Nothing particular. No, I don't want to be constrained by whatever, I suppose, genre limitations there may be with doing this kind of music, mainly because I don't think I approached it from a genre bound kind of standpoint anyway. I wanted to kind of introduce electronics. I wanted to introduce electronics in a much more nasty kind of way than probably it's come out as at the moment. But again, it's horses for courses. There's a lot of other projects that I dabble in that I can utilize that in, or there's, we've got the future ahead of us that I can bring that in. Again, not necessarily volume or impact related additions. If anything, maybe subtractions, okay. Removal of sound, addition of emptiness, hire a nothing player, just stand there. But as I say, I think it's all about building and tension and release and things like that. And as I say, it's all will expand, I suppose. Will expand as opposed to be restricted. But it will not be pleasant. This is the only thing I can absolutely confirm. It will not be pleasant in any way, shape, or form.
You say that, and you give me this vibe of like old school Swans, like when you say like taking out and like having the nothing player. Like sometimes to me, like the silence in the Swans is more powerful than the music itself. So that's pretty awesome. So
thank you. Yeah, that's what we're going for. Yep.
Cool. So I guess the next thing I kind of want to ask is, you said you have a bunch of you have a bunch of songs sitting, waiting. And you said there's a little more kind of like darker, blacker, kind of nightmarish tones to it. Is the other stuff similar to this, or are we going to be kind of shocked and hear something brand new when the next record comes?
No, I don't think so. There are, I think, certainly with a couple of the tracks that I've kind of almost or semi-demoed for the next record, there's don't expect any significant changes, but as I say, there might be a bit more difference in terms of, as I say, the dynamics, loud versus quiet, that type of thing. More repetition, maybe from a more kind of awkward noise rocky brain bombsy kind of angle, as opposed to maybe something more sludge. Just not necessarily in terms of vibe or subject matter, but just the again, it's all about the tension and just that repetition as to when is this fucking riff going to end. That can have that same impact again as waiting for the hammer to drop. So it all leads to the same kind of desired impact, I guess.
And you said you're kind of very visual live. If you could make a video for any one of the 4 tracks, which one would you do and why?
I think maybe Watchmen alone, just because I think lyrically that came from, I suppose, a very visual thing. It was just, again, one of my not particularly ecstatic trains of thought I had when I was in a pretty dark place. Just the bomb dropping, and the graphic novel Watchmen, obviously, it's one of my favorite bits of literature, art, whatever you would call it, of all time. And that reference, I think there's just like a silhouette of a couple in there. Job later fed it, I think it's known as the Hiroshima couple, as in once the bomb landed, there was just the scorch marks of people there. And obviously the one in Watchmen, there's a couple in this thing, and I just imagined, well, if it was to go off now, they're just the one, and there you go, the bomb's going off just like Watchmen, but alone. Hence the title. I mean, it's really self-explanatory. I try to think of something a bit more artistic, but I like just using those 2 words just to punch something up. And I think you'll probably do a similar thing with the with a visual accompaniment.
Okay.
Not necessarily just using or highlighting or nicking bits of the film or the graphic novel, but something in terms of representing, I suppose, being cast in time, alone forever, absolutely just something visually with that,
Cool.
Again,
that works.
Pleasant again,
So this is the last real question I have. It's kind of a thinking question, so go crazy, take your time. I
I
ask
just
every
hear the clock's turning then. Yeah.
yeah, I ask every interview this that because I love to know if you could hand one of your songs to any band to make it their own. What band would you want to give a song to, and why?
That's really cool and also difficult because one of the things I've really enjoyed doing is trying to think of songs to utilize in a Cattle Hammer way.
Yeah.
I've done that for fun. I mean, I've got half a dozen different unfinished cover versions that I've done. Putting the shoe on the other foot now, that is really quite difficult. But I don't know. You mentioned Swans earlier. I'd love to see what they could do taking one of our tracks apart. But maybe I mean, Body Puzzle, maybe. Yeah, I mean, Swans, Mid-90s Neurosis.
Yeah.
I want to get something Enemy of the Sun vibe, Three Silver and Blood vibe. Get them to kind of chop that up somehow. Put them 3 vocalists over the top. Oh, that'd be sick. Again, just to indulge some of my old kind of love of all hardcore, just someone like Dillinger.
Oh wow.
There's only 3 notes in this track. Let's see you can what you can do with that.
Very cool. No, awesome. That's great. No, that works really well. So the last question I always ask is, what's Cattle Hammer going to be up to for the next 6 months? Is there a bunch of shows? Are you doing anything particular? Any special releases? Things like that. So.
No releases as such. We just did a track on a compilation to benefit PCRF, cover of DVDs by Flux of Pink Indians, an old anarcho band from the UK. So that kind of dropped on the same day as the album. So if you like the record, there's another track out there as new through good cause. The next 6 months we'll be rehearsing, demoing, I suppose, the tracks for the next record, whenever that will be. But it's just, you might as well start to work on that now. But I think immediately we've just updated a new merch store. That's taken me 5 all-night sessions to finish up. So that's live now. Gigs are starting to be booked up for again in the UK at the moment. So March, June, and July. But we've got some really good bands that we're playing with. Believe in Nothing. We've got Mrs. Fright House. We were playing with Smoldering Tomb, who are an awesome new death metal band. Liquid Shit, who are really, what a great band name. Again, you'll dig those guys because again, very death metal heavy, but miserable sludge kind of stuff. But yeah, we're going to do a couple of shows of those in July, which promises to be good. And then we'll just wait for people to come to us, all being well. Like I said, the reception of the album's been really good, so I hope that translates into not necessarily specifically high profile shows, but just a gradual build and development and expansion upon how we've come so far, which I think the trajectory in the last 12 months has been absolutely ridiculous and not something I could have guessed any road. So as long as it keeps on that trajectory of more shows, keep at it, keep working, and just
cool.
Spreading the filth to all those who want a bit of it,
Awesome. So I'm going to ask another question because you kind of just bounced it off my head. Has there been any input, feedback, review that kind of blew you away, and not like a positive or negative way, but like in a way you never thought that you saw the band before, and like they said something and you were like, holy shit, yeah, okay, I can see this? Or
not particularly off the top of my head as I'm thinking. Okay. No, I mean, for me, it's more a kind of almost a self-confirmation, because I've been plagued by a lot of self-doubt over the years. I even had the ability to actually get a band off, from my own, off my own back, get get a band together, play shows. Never mind getting an album out, which is completely ridiculous. And I do apologize. I've been thinking that hard. I've lost the train of thought from the original question. Give me a hand again.
Yeah, no problem. Have you gotten any kind of feedback or input that like people like you were just shocked when you heard it? So.
Yeah, it was more like the things that get me are such as yourself, where you've said that we've got the kinds of the kinds of vibe of buzz of and grief, Noothgrush. I've seen people say it's is it in Eternal Darkness, Winter? They've referenced Human Garbage by Dystopia, Burning Witch Carnival, all these bands that I love. That is the to be spoken of in those same breath, no matter who's said it, if it's a big music magazine or just some one guy who's doing just a zine at shows or whatever. If they're picking up on something that I tried, or something, or that something I not necessarily actually tried, but something that I know is in there inside me, it's like, oh shit, okay, well, yeah, they're picking up on something that I'm not, through choice or not, that's been put out there, whether I mean to or not.
Cool. Well, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. Like, this has been a blast. I don't do many interviews, but your record just spoke to me, and I just I really wanted to speak to you about this. So I appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck. And I'm gonna personally say, if people don't get this Cattle Hammer record, they're a bunch of fucking idiots, because it's a phenomenal record. All right. But outside of that, thank you so much, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's the pleasure's all mine, Clint. Thank you. Best of luck, all the success to you, and yeah, thanks to everybody who's checked it out so far. Hopefully see you out there soon.
Thanks.